tasked with the story collection and album production for this project. So before I get into talking about the process, I just want to say that and we are extremely proud to be part of this process, and really, really, just as a human being, like proud of the people who participated and shared their stories and made themselves vulnerable and discussed difficult things that, in a lot of the cases, had never been discussed before. And I think that really speaks to kind of the complex human struggles that this album has captured. So we set out to create an album that was comprised of voices of young people and their experiences with police and how that's transformed their identity, and voices of police and their experiences with young people and how that transformed their identity. But we kind of quickly realized that we needed to add some more context to really kind of illustrate the layers to that and tensions in that relationship. So the stories really do go beyond these kind of one-off instances where I'm so-and-so and I had this interaction with a young person or vice versa. And so in a lot of ways, the individual stories are kind of bound by the identity of the storyteller. Like if an officer's telling a story, it's very much an officer's story. But when all these stories kind of occupy the same space on the album, and you add in the discussion questions, which are part of the album, to invite and encourage the difficult conversations that people can use to engender kind of meaningful accountability. We think that the album takes on a whole new life and can provide hope and new opportunities for learning and growth and kind of a new reality of thinking about this. So the process, we kind of used two approaches. Kind of the first approach was more direct, like man on the street interviews with young people, and that's when the youth really stepped it up and really, really performed high quality interviews. You guys want to talk about your experience doing the interviews and the project a little bit?
The way me and the boys, we just got together. It started off as three, but then kids started noticing how well me and the three boys was doing. The other guy, he's not here. He's absent, but they noticed how good we was doing and how much attention we was getting, and they wanted to join the program. So we interviewed a couple guys, police officers. We interviewed Eddie, Daniel over there, and this guy right here. We interviewed a couple people. We took a couple trips around Chicago. Got to notice how professional interviews work. We went to camp. Yeah, we went over there, interviewed a couple people, also had fun. It was just a wonderful experience for me and the guys.
My favorite part is just to get to know, to see how many people and relate to it. What my thought was about the police and stuff. It was the trip me I had. We all almost had the same answer and had the same experience. I like that we was able to talk to them, tell them how we feel and all that stuff.
Cool. Thank you, guys. That was one approach. The other approach was a little bit more embedded in YXPP's philosophy about how dialogue can be used to kind of extract deeper meaning. So the team and Judge's sister and a few other people, we all got together and created two separate curriculums for what we call journaling workshops. So the officers got together, young people got together separately, and went through a series of events and activities that kind of allowed collective and collaborative brainstorming on these stories. And then they were given an opportunity to write, and from those written stories, we scheduled follow-up interviews and kind of asked them to expand on those stories. So those are the two main avenues that we used to collect the stories. And by the end, we had over 35 stories collected just in a 2-month period. So editing them down was difficult. And I think about 8 or 9 stories made it to the album just because of spatial limitations. But so here's what we have now, and the real work begins now in making sure that the tool gets used and gets out and gets put to use, and if adaptations need to be made, that we do them effectively. So that's the album.
Thank you guys.